There is a throne room within you, a sacred chamber at the very center of your being, where you were meant to reign with wisdom, compassion, and authority. But if you were to look upon it now, you would likely find it empty, or occupied by impostors, the clamoring voices of fear, the borrowed opinions of others, the restless ghost of who you think you should be. You feel this emptiness not as a quiet peace, but as a subtle sense of powerlessness, a haunting feeling that your life is happening to you rather than being directed by you. You look for authority everywhere, in job titles, in social approval, in spiritual teachers, in bank accounts, yet the sovereignty you seek can never be found in the outer world, for it is a crown that rests within. The great master Ibn Arabi, in his foundational work Fusus al-Hikam, the Bezels of Wisdom, unveils a forgotten path to this inner kingship. He reveals that you are al-khalifah, the divine vicegerent upon earth, a sleeping sovereign who has forgotten the sound of their own decree and the weight of their own crown. This is not a metaphor of ego, but a spiritual reality. You were created to represent the divine attributes in the realm of form, to be the conscious eye through which God beholds his own creation. The world has conditioned you to believe that power is something to be seized from outside, a trophy to be won in competition with others. But true sovereignty, as Ibn Arabi teaches, is not taken, it is recognized and claimed. It is the awakening to your primordial nature as the Insan al-Kamil, the complete human, who perfectly reflects the divine command. Your feeling of disempowerment stems from a fundamental misidentification. You believe you are the fleeting thoughts, the changing emotions, the temporary roles you play. You have mistaken the royal messengers for the king himself. Ibn Arabi's path is a journey of returning to the throne room, of dismissing the false regents who have been ruling in your name, and of taking your rightful seat not through force, but through the profound realization that the throne was never truly empty, it was only waiting for you to remember who you are. This forgetting was a necessary sleep, a divine mercy that allowed you to experience separation so that you could consciously choose to return to unity. But now, the alarm is sounding. The turmoil in your life, the deep yearning for meaning, the dissatisfaction with superficial answers, these are not signs of failure, but the stirrings of the sleeping sovereign within. The crown is beginning to feel heavy on the head of the impostor, and the soul is remembering its royal decree. The path to inner kingship is not about building a stronger ego, but about aligning your personal will with the divine will, so that you become a clear channel for grace, justice, and love to flow into the world. It is to rule not as a tyrant, but as a servant king, governing the inner kingdom of your heart with the same compassion and wisdom with which God governs the universe. The first step is to turn your gaze away from the outer court and toward the inner chamber, to approach the empty throne, and to listen for the echo of the question that has been waiting since the beginning of time: who is the one fit to govern this domain? To reclaim the throne, you must first clear the court of its usurpers. These are not monstrous invaders from without, but subtle, cunning aspects of your own conditioned self that have established themselves in the seats of power during the sovereign's long slumber. They are the false regents, and they govern through deception, fear, and whispered lies. The most powerful among them is the nafs al-ammarah, the commanding self, which masquerades as your identity, insisting that your worth is tied to your achievements, your possessions, and the opinions of others. Seated beside it is the waswas, the constant whisperer of doubt, who questions your every intuition and magnifies every risk into a terrifying prophecy. Then there is the chamberlain of past grievances, who keeps detailed records of every wound ever suffered, and the treasurer of future anxieties, who hoards fears about what may never come to pass. This entire court has been operating under one fundamental lie, that they are protecting you, when in truth, they are only protecting their own temporary authority. The practice of clearing this court is the foundational work of the seeker on Ibn Arabi path. It is not a war of violent suppression, for that would only empower another form of tyranny. It is, instead, the practice of muraqabah, vigilant, loving awareness. You must learn to sit as the silent, impartial witness of your own inner kingdom. Close your eyes and turn your attention inward. You will immediately hear the din of the false court, a worry about a tomorrow, a resentment from a yesterday, a pang of insecurity. Do not engage them in debate. Do not try to argue them out of existence. Simply recognize them for what they are. The treasurer of anxiety is presenting his report. I see you. The chamberlain of past wounds is recounting an old story. I acknowledge your presence. This act of recognition, devoid of judgment or reaction, is the first and most powerful step in stripping them of their authority. They derive their power from your unconscious identification with them. When you simply observe them, you reveal the fundamental truth: you are not them. You are the awareness in which they appear. The most potent tool for this clearing is the sacred breath of sovereignty. With each inhalation, draw the light of divine awareness, al-Nur, into the throne room of your heart. With each exhalation, release a specific false regent. Breathe in clarity, breathe out the need for validation. Breathe in presence, breathe out the anxiety of the future. Breathe in forgiveness, breathe out the grudges of the past. This is not a mere visualization, it is an alchemical process of takali, purification, making space for the true ruler to return. As you consistently practice this, the chaotic noise of the inner court begins to quiet. The false regents, no longer fueled by your unconscious attention, slowly lose their vitality. Their shouts become whispers, and their whispers eventually fade into a humbled silence. The throne room is not cleared in a day, but through patient, persistent remembrance. And as the dust settles and the usurpers depart, you begin to feel it, a profound, waiting silence, a sacred emptiness that is not lacking, but is full of potential. The stage is being set. The court is being prepared. The throne awaits its one, and does not arrive with the blare of trumpets or the fanfare of cosmic applause. It arrives in a silence so deep, it has its own sound, the sound of a universe holding its breath. It is the moment when the last false regent, having been seen through and gently dismissed, bows and exits the chamber, and the final echo of its footsteps fades into nothing. In that vast, unoccupied stillness, something shifts. It is not an addition, but a subtraction. It is not a new thing learned, but an ancient thing remembered. The seeking ceases, because the seeker realizes it has always been what it sought. This is the moment of the sovereign's awakening, not an arrival, but a return. The sleeping king opens his eyes, and his first act is to recognize that he was never truly asleep, only dreaming he was. He was never absent from the throne, only gazing out the window at a captivating illusion, temporarily forgetting the seat from which he viewed it. This awakening is the realization of your true identity as the al-khalifah. It is the direct, unmediated knowledge that you are the divine vicegerent, not as a title to be earned, but as your fundamental nature to be recognized. Ibn Arabi explains that the perfect human, the Insan al-Kamil, is the isthmus, barzakh, between the absolute reality, al-haq, and the creation, al-khalq. You are the bridge. You are the conscious point where the formless takes form, where the eternal breathes into the temporal. To awaken to this is to feel the weight of the crown, not as a burden, but as the natural alignment of your will with the divine will. You understand that your sovereignty is not the right to command the universe according to your petty desires, but the awesome responsibility to reflect the divine attributes into the world with perfect fidelity. You rule not by shouting commands, but by embodying qualities, by being a living expression of ar-Rahman, the all-compassionate, when compassion is needed, of al-Adl, the just, when justice is required. This coronation happens in the heart, not the head. It is a feeling, a knowing that settles in the chest with the weight of 1,000 truths. It is the feeling that the center of your consciousness has dropped from the swirling chaos of the mind into the calm, sovereign stillness of the heart. From this new seat of authority, you look out upon the landscape of your life, your relationships, your work, your challenges, and everything is the same, yet utterly transformed. The problems have not vanished, but they have lost their power to destabilize you, for you now meet them not as a helpless victim, but as a ruler tasked with governing them. The mind, once a tyrant, now becomes your most loyal advisor, bringing you information and analysis, but awaiting your decree from the heart. The emotions become your messengers, conveying the state of your kingdom, but no longer overthrowing the throne. You have come home to yourself. The long exile is over. The sleeping sovereign is awake, and the first decree issued from the throne is a single, silent, all-encompassing word, Amin. So be it. An awakened sovereign does not rule from a distant palace, removed from the dust and toil of the kingdom. True sovereignty is exercised in the marketplace, in the home, in the quiet solitude of dawn, and in the noisy complexity of the day. It is a perpetual, moment-to-moment practice of governance. Having taken your seat upon the inner throne, you now face the most crucial question: how does the Khalifa rule? The answer lies in the divine names themselves, which become the living constitution of your inner kingdom. Your every thought, word, and action is now a potential decree issued from the throne of your heart. To govern wisely is to allow the appropriate divine quality to manifest through you in response to each situation you encounter. A threat to your peace is met not with the ego's defense, but with the calm, unshakable authority of al-Malik, the sovereign. A moment requiring forgiveness becomes an opportunity to embody al-Ghafir, the all-forgiving. This is not a performance, but a profound alignment, a letting go of the small self's reactions so that the grand self's attributes may flow unimpeded. The first act of daily governance is the Court of Awareness. Each morning, before the world claims your attention, you sit upon your inner throne in silent communion. You do not ask for things, you reaffirm your station. You consciously receive the divine decrees for the day not as a list of tasks, but as a set of qualities to embody. You might feel called to embody as Saba, the patient, today, or Al-Karim, the generous. This intention becomes the lens through which you will view every event. Then, throughout the day, you hold continuous court. When a situation arises that triggers an old, egoic pattern, a flash of anger, a surge of fear, you do not react immediately. You pause. You return to the throne of the heart. From this seat of authority, you observe the trigger not as a personal affront, but as a matter of state requiring a wise response. You consult your inner constitution. What quality is needed here? What decree would love issue? What action would justice take? The response that then arises is not a reaction, but a chosen, sovereign decree. This governance extends to your entire being. Your body is the territory of your kingdom, your breath is the royal messenger, and your senses are the scouts who bring you news from the outer world. You rule with compassion for all your subjects, including the parts of yourself you have previously rejected. The fatigue in your body is not an enemy to be fought with caffeine, but a citizen asking for rest. The ache of sadness is not a weakness to be suppressed, but a petitioner seeking the balm of your own acknowledgement and love. The sovereign does not wage war on their own kingdom, they listen, they integrate, and they heal. This is the ultimate expression of inner kingship, a state of unified, compassionate governance where every aspect of your being is honored, heard, and directed toward its highest purpose. You are no longer a battlefield of conflicting impulses, but a harmonious kingdom under the benevolent rule of a heart that has remembered its divine origin. The crown is no longer a symbol, but a living reality, the circle of conscious presence within which your entire existence finds its order, its meaning, and its peace.